Hello ladies and gentlemen, this is Destiny from Desphixs and welcome back to another video in the e-commerce project using Django. In this one, we'll get started working with creating orders and also start working on the checkout page for customers. That is what we'll be doing. Hopefully you enjoy the video and learn something new. Consider dropping a like on the video and also subscribing to the channel, as that will really mean the world to me. And also check out some of the links in the description, as you might find one of them there to be very useful. So let's get started. I'll begin by opening up my code editor. And remember, in the last one, we worked on everything that has to do with the cards and we finalized it over there. And in this one, we'll get started with a new feature. So I will just close out all my tabs. All right, so now I want you to open up the views PY and get all the way to the bottom over here. And I'm going to close up this terminal so that we have more space to work with. So now the very first thing that we will do is start off with creating a new function. And if you're to think about it, how is the create order function going to work? So what we basically want to do is allow users to click on a button. So let me show you. So users will, after adding their items to cart and performing all the operations, they will click on this button. And as soon as they click on this button, we want to compile everything, which is the total cart items, the summary, calculates shipping, calculates tax if the need be, calculates the total, and save it to a new model that will be called order. Okay, and also we don't forget the address, because the address must also be included. So that is what we will be doing. Let's get started. Define a new function called create order, and you need to pass in the request parameter in there. Now we want to check if request.method is post, which means the method that's in the form or in the HTML form is actually a post method. That is only when we want to perform any operation. If it's not a post method, then we just want to show a user a message, or you could even just leave it blank. Nothing is going to happen. So check if request.method is equal to post. Then what do we want to do? The very first thing will be to get the address ID, because hopefully you already know that when a form is being submitted, that means you're trying to grab some inputs from where the form is being submitted. And the only reason why we're actually even checking if request.method is a post is just for the sake of this address. So this address is the only thing that we need to grab from an input. Every other thing can be calculated with the data that we already have in the database. So it's just because of this form, with this address form over here or input. That is just why we are checking if request method is post. So then let's go ahead and grab the address ID from the front end. So address ID should be equal to request.post.get. And then I'm going to pass in address over there. And then let's say if not address ID, which means address ID obviously does not exist, then let's send a messages.warning, because this is very important so that a user does not navigate to the checkout page without putting in their address. So messages, that should be messages. Okay, so messages.warning. Then you could say something like, please select an address to continue. Very good. And also let's go ahead and redirects them back to the cart. So as soon as we call this function, it will immediately start processing it in the back end. Now it's as good as this user has immediately left the cart page when we call this function. So we need to take them back to the cart page if address was not selected. I hope that makes sense. So after we have done this one, else, that means there was actually an address ID. Let's go ahead and fetch the address object from the database using the address ID that we got from the front end. I hope that makes sense. So we fetch the address from the database by saying customer models.address.objects.filter, and we want to filter by user should be equal to request.user, and ID should be equal to the address ID. So what we are basically doing now is grabbing all the addresses in the database where the user that created the address is the current logged in user, and the address ID that's the user passed from the front end is equal to the current ID that is saved in the address object in the database. Let me explain. So when the user click on this, we immediately assign the ID of this address to a name called address over here. And to even make that more clear to you, I will open up the cat HTML so that you could see that for yourself. You can scroll all the way to where we have the address. Now take a close look at this inputs. You can see that this inputs name over here is address, right? Which means whatever the value of this input is, which in this case is the address ID, will be sent to the back end as soon as we call this function. So that is why we are grabbing it over here. This address here is basically the name of the inputs. This one here is just a variable that we use to store the value that we are getting from the front end. Now what we did over here was fetch all the addresses in the database that match this particular address that we are getting, and also match the user that created it as the logged in user. And based on the fact that the order only accepts one address, we want to go ahead and grab the first item that matches our query. As simple as that. So after you have done that, let's go ahead and say if cat ID. So we want to check if cat ID is in the requests.session. If it is, let's create a new variable and store the cat ID. So we'll say requests.session. Then we grab the key cat ID from the session, which will in return give us the cat ID value. So this is just the key. Okay. So what we did over here was check if there is any key in the session called cat ID. Remember, that's the key that we used when we saved it. So if there is any key in the session called cat ID, go ahead and grab that key and its value and store it to a variable called cat ID. Okay, so please let the naming not confuse you. What if for some reason we don't have any key in the session, which means a user must have not added any item to their cart and maybe they are maliciously trying to check out? So in that case, let's go ahead and say cat ID should be equal to none. Does this make sense? I hope I'm going in a pace that you can actually understand. Okay, so after this, the next thing will be to go ahead and fetch all the items that we have in the database. So to fetch all the items, you just want to say items dot, my bad, that's supposed to be items variable, should be equal to store models dot cat dot objects dot, and this time around I'm going to use filter and grab cat ID should be equal to the cat ID. Okay, so when you have done this, that is basically everything that you want to do. But there is just one more thing I will recommend that you do, and that is making sure that we grab it for the case where a user is also logged in. Just like I've said, what if a user wants to log in with their mobile phone and actually check out? We want to make sure that as soon as they log in, they get access to all their cart's data from any device. So please make sure that whenever you are querying anything that has to do with the cards, that you are using this piece of code over here. Okay, you see this piece of code. If for any reason I miss it, please do not miss it. Okay, this is the line of code that's going to allow users to log in from any device anywhere in the world and access their cart items from our store without having to be on a particular PC. So when you have copied that, you can then come over here and paste it like this. Okay, so after pasting, that is everything that we want to do. But one more thing is okay, this actually looks good to me. Let's go ahead and grab the cart subtotal. Then over here I'm going to perform the aggregations. So what I was thinking of was this: should I perform the cart subtotal aggregations on the items, or should I actually just write out its own code? But yeah, let's go ahead and write out its own code to, you know, separate things and actually keep things clean and not get anyone confused. So I'm gonna say cart subtotal should be equal to store models dot cart dot objects dot filter, and we are filtering by exactly this same thing over here. So you already know the drill. You can go ahead, copy this and paste. Very good. And after you have pasted, I want you to go ahead and aggregate. And what are we aggregating? We define a variable called shipping, and we say shipping should be equal to models or you could just call sum. I think I already have that imported. So sum order. I think I just mixed some things up. So this is cat subtotal, okay? But over here I started creating for the shipping, so please don't miss this. It should be subtotal. We'll create for the shipping in the next one, so this should be subtotal. All right, and just like I've said in the past, when you create this just like this without actually returning whatever value we have saved in the subtotal over here, it will return some kind of query sets and the data that's not very readable by the front end. It will actually print out at the front end, or if you print it over here it will print. But then if you'll be calling it in the front end, what you need to say is cat subtotal. So let me show you. If you want to call this in the front end, you will say cat subtotal dots, then you call this field here. So whatever you call this here is what you then need to say dot this. Then need to go ahead and grab the main value of this. But if you don't want to go through the stress, let's say immediately you call the cat subtotal, you want it to get the value, then in that case what you need to do is scroll all the way to this part at the end, open up a square bracket, then I want you to go ahead and pass in sub underscore total, just like that in a string, and that should be it. So go ahead and duplicate this, and let's also work on the shipping. So okay, instead of just calling the shipping, we could say cat shipping total, just to stick to naming conventions. Okay, and over here, instead of calling this one subtotal, I guess I could just call it shipping, right? And in fact, if you want to split things up, you could just copy the shipping here and paste it here and here. If you already know how the logic works, it shouldn't be difficult for you. You could clearly know that what we are doing over here is filtering all the cat items related to this particular user, and we are summing up all the shipping field that are in that item. Okay, so now that we have done this, that is everything that we want to do. Let's go ahead and save this order. So to do that, we need to initialize a new order instance by saying order should be equal to store models dot order, and you don't need to say anything like dot objects dot create or whatever. Just go ahead and initialize this empty object over here. So this is as good as getting an empty box ready to put some things into them. That is exactly what we have done over here. So now to start putting things into this box, what you just need to say is call this order over here and choose whatever field you want to assign something to, or whatever compartment in the box that you want to put something in. So we will say subtotal be equal to cat subtotal. So remember that over here we have calculated the cat subtotal for every item we have in our cart, and what we are doing over here is adding that subtotal to the other objects that we initiated in the just a few seconds ago. I wanted to say in the past, but it's also in the past. So after we have done this, let's also go ahead and add the customer. So we'll say order dot customer should be equal to obviously the logged in user, so say request dot user. Now if for any reason you want a guest checkout feature where a user does not have to sign up before they can actually check out, then you could say request.user or none. Okay, so if a user is not logged in and they are trying to create an order and they are not obviously logged in, you can still go ahead and return none for the customer field. Okay, but I want users to be logged in. So after we have done this, we also need for the address. So say order dot that should be address. Do we have the address field on the order model? I doubt. Let's check. It was supposed to autofill that for me. You can see we obviously do not have that, so please go ahead and bring it back in. And based on the fact that we might have created some orders manually in the back end, or in the database rather, I want you to make this field to be blank true. Okay, which means if we don't have any address related to a particular order in the database, it's okay. Don't throw any error. Maybe we did that on purpose or for some reason. Okay, that is why we added this. And I also added the set null and the null true. Hopefully I have explained all this in the past and you know how they work. Very good. So now if you say order.address, or you can see address is now coming in, so we can set this to address just like that. And then you could also go ahead and set for shipping by saying order.shipping should be equal to, then here is where we get the cart's shipping total. Very good. So when you have done this one, let's also go ahead and do the same thing for the tax, but this one is going to be a little bit complex. It won't be straight to the point, just like we've been doing. So what I want you to do now is come over to the fast cart over here, and I want you to create a new folder here, a new folder in this directory. You can right click, new folder, and I want you to call this one plugin or plugins, whatever you want, but please stick to plugin. And in the plugin, I want you to create a new one called tax_calculation, tax calculation.py. Okay, and what we want to do over here will be quite simple. Now if you already have the source code, then I have provided you with a list of countries that will be stored in this plugin folder. So what we need to do over here is in the plugins, right click and create a new one called countries.py, just like that. And I'm gonna go ahead and bring in all the countries. It's actually, for now, it's just basic countries, and you could go ahead and pre-fill this. Don't worry, I'm going to provide you with all the countries of the world over here, but for now you can see I'm just using this as an example: Algeria, India, Nigeria, and the United States. Okay, and you can see the tax rate over here also: 3%, 6% for India, 2% for Nigeria, 7% for the United States. Okay, so please, all this for now are dummy data. Okay, just so you know. Now before your application goes live, make sure that you change this. You could even go ahead and also populate it and call it directly from your database, but to keep things simple and lightweight, for now this is how I am doing this till we start calling this from the database. Okay, so when you have done this, back in the tax calculation, what we now need to do is firstly import this plugin by saying from plugin.countries, we want to import countries. Okay, so that is because in the countries py we have a function named countries. Does that make sense? So when you have done that, let's go ahead and create a new function that should calculate tax for us. So I'll say define tax_calculations, or just calculation. Then this function is going to take two parameters. It will take the country that the user is coming from, and it will also take the order total. Very good. So now what I want to do is go ahead and set tax_rates to 0. That is the very first thing that we want to do. Okay, then we want to check for something for C in countries. So we loop through all the countries that we have over here in the countries py. Hopefully you know how iteration and loops work, and if for any reason you don't know how these basic things work, let me know if you need a Python crash course, and I will go ahead and make that for you guys. A Python crash course where we'll talk about a lot of Python beginner related things, and I'll go ahead and make that for you guys. So we loop through all the countries, and for each instance or for each of the country over here, we want to perform an operation. So what do we want to do? We want to check if country is equal to C country. Whoops, that should be C country. There you go. So what does this mean? So if the country that is being passed to us from the create order function, which is where we will call the tax calculation, remember that this is a function that takes two parameters, country and order total, which means this country here will be given to us by the user. So from their address, we'll grab the country, and also the order total will also be given to us after they have added all items to their carts and we have compiled all the order. So when this is returned back to us, we loop through all the countries over here to get the user particular country that was in their address. So for C in country, let's say that the user chose India as their country. What will happen is the iteration will start from the first one, go through this, and the country India, which the user specified in their order, does not match the first one, it will skip that and go to the second one. And if it matches, it will say, yeah, there you go. Then we perform some other operation here. So that is exactly what this is doing. Now, in case you don't understand, what we're doing over here with this is C over here is all this instance here. Now what we are saying is, hey, from C, grab only the country over here, and this is its value. So let's say you want to grab the tax rates, what you need to say is C, then over here you grab the tax rate. I hope this makes sense and I hope it's clear. So if for any reason this isn't clear, don't worry, I'm compiling documents where you can actually go ahead and, you know, go through this tutorial without the video, because I noticed that a lot of people find it difficult following videos. Maybe the pace of the instructor might be faster or slower. A lot of people are different, but when you actually see a step-by-step written guide with images, explanation, detailed, you know, explanation with diagrams and all that, then you take it at your own pace. So don't worry, I'm compiling that for you guys. In a couple weeks it should be out and everybody should have access to that. Okay, so what we want to do over here, if the country matches, is go ahead and say that, remember that tax rate variable that we created at the top, we want to say, hey, that tax rate should be plus equals, then convert whatever we will do here now into an integer. And I want to convert every other thing that we'll do here into a float. Please don't get confused. And I want to grab the tax rate. So tax underscore rates. So when you have done this one, then we want to get out of here for the integer. Then divide this by 100 and then multiply by, again, convert to float the order total. Okay, so guys, this is pretty much how we convert percentage to an actual number. So we take the percentage divided by 100 and multiply it by the total number, then we get what the exact tax rate is. And how do we actually return this tax rate back to the front end? Get out of the loop. Do not do this in the loop. Get out of the loop. Then you need to return tax rates. Just like I've said, if you want to know how this simple basic things work and for some reason you're not really familiar with all this, let me know in the comment section and I'll compile a Python crash course for everyone. Okay, so now that we have done this, we could get back to the views over here, and then you could go ahead and import this from the top by basically saying from plugin dot tax calculations import tax calculations, as simple as that. So now that we have done this, all we just need to do is then call this tax calculation down here on a new line. So on a new line, what you need to say is order dot tax should be equal to the tax calculation. Then remember the address dot country is the country of the user. And what is the next parameter that it needs? Remember that it's the order total. So that is where you then need to go ahead and pass in, take notes, pass in the cat subtotal, not the order total. So you only want to take tax for the item. Okay, you don't want to take tax for things like vendor service fee or I don't know, processing fee, but this one is totally up to you and your government policies. So please make sure that you go through whatever documents that your government provides for tax, go through it and know how collection of tax works, and you could tweak this code up to, you know, comply with your tax regulations and policies in your country. Okay, so I'm gonna say order dot total. Now we want to fill in the order total by saying order dot subtotal. So this one is basically additions plus order dot shipping plus, then this one is actually quite delicate because I firstly want to convert it to a decimal before I then pass in order dot tax. Now you might be like, okay, Destiny, why are you just making reference to orders that does not exist? I thought you're supposed to save this order before you can call it. No, you don't. All these are actually a running function, and as soon as this line executes, it's stored. As soon as this one is executed, also it's stored. So you could immediately grab items from the ones that have been stored in the order before finally committing everything to the database by running the order.save. Don't worry, I will compile all this in the document and you should be able to follow along step by step. All right, so that is it for the order total. Let's go ahead and also do one for the service fee. So this is another very much requested feature that I got, which is for the service fee. So order.service fee should be equal to none for now. So why am I putting this as none? Why don't I go ahead and calculate the service fee? That is because I want to create another function to calculate the service fee. Okay, so those functions that we are creating now, you could call them helper functions that don't make our code look dirty, but instead you put all this in their own files and in their own functions and basically call them in here. So now in the future, if for any reason you want to calculate tax for another part of this application, you don't need to go ahead and start writing out all the tax calculation logic. All you just need to do is go ahead and call the tax calculation function and pass in the country and also the cat subtotal or whatever you're passing in to calculate the tax. So for the service fee, what you want to do is in the plugins, I want you to go ahead and create a new file, and then you could call this one service underscore fee dot py. And in here, a very simple function is what we're going to create. Firstly, import decimal from decimal. Whoops, that should be decimal. Did I just say import decimal from decimal? I think I'm getting very used to React.js. So let's create a new function called calculate underscore service underscore b. And this is going to take just one parameter, which is going to be the order total. So the front, not the front end, okay? So the create order function, which we have over here, this one is going to call this function and basically pass in the cat subtotal. Then when it gives us the cat subtotal, let's use it to calculate the service fee. Now let's say that your service fee that you want to charge for your platform is 5%, is equal to 5%. So this is where you should change your service fee from. Also, just so you know, you can also pull this from a database, so that let's say you're already in a live server and you're like, you know what, I want to change my service fee. Then you actually have to reformat your code to be able to do this. But for now, let's do it like this, okay? Because I don't want to actually create a lot of overhead that should throw some of us off. So for now, let's do it like this. When we start getting to the advanced section of the course, then we'll start reformatting everything and making everything professional, okay? So now go ahead, return decimal, and you want to say order underscore total multiplied by decimal of service fee divided by 100. So this is how, just like we did for the tax calculation, do you remember? This is how you return an actual number or a whole number of whatever percentage we have over here. So what this is going to do is to take the order total, let's say 65, and it will multiply it by 5% and divide it everything by 100. This will give us our service fee in US dollars, okay, not in percentage anymore. So as soon as you change this, that's all you need to do. You don't even need to do anything else for your service fee to automatically work. So when you have done that, all you then need to do now is come over to your views again, just like we are down here, and instead of doing this, you want to go ahead and call calculate underscore service underscore fee. I know I did not import this, but don't worry, as soon as you hover on this, click on quick fix and then click on this, it will go ahead and import it for you, okay? So now to calculate the order total, rather to calculate the service fee, pass in the order total. So say order dot total. Very good. And finally, we need to then say order dot total should be equal to order dot service fee. I know that we added total over here, and over here we are re-adding total. That is because the sake of adding this total here was so that we can be able to grab the processing fee and process it. Then after the processing fee or the service fee has been created, the order total will still not match up because it was created here, then the service fee was now created here. So you need a way to update the order total, and that was why we did this, adding the order service fee. And if for any reason you're familiar with Django or Python in general, you should know that we have a big mistake. Can you pause the video and try to figure out what it is or what you are doing wrong? If you still can't, the issue is that over here, we said order.total should be equal to order.service fee. What we're basically doing is reassigning whatever the value of order total is with the order service fee. So if for any reason order total was initially 25 USD and service fee is 8, what we're doing over there is removing the 25 and replacing the order total by 8. Does that really make sense? Of course it doesn't. But let's say that the order was 20 initially and service fee is 8. What we just want to do is 20 should be equal to 20 plus 8, which will then give us 28. So that's what we want to do. Okay, hopefully you got that. All right, so when you have done that, go ahead and save. Hit order.save. Now I want to do the most interesting one, which is basically create order items. Each order will have different items related to them because this is a multi-vendor platform. Hopefully you know that, which can also be used for a single seller. So we want to make sure that when a user purchases multiple items, each vendor will be able to get their own instance of the order. Okay, so that is why we've created order items for orders. So I want you to say for I in items, and then you could go ahead and say store model dot order, or you could even just say, okay, yeah, let's do it this way. I initially wanted to go the formal route of initializing an empty order object, then filling it in, but then on the second thoughts, I don't think we have much reason to do that because we wouldn't be needing the the order in some other instances of our application. So let's just create that. So we say order item dot objects dot create. First and foremost, order should be equal to order, very good, and products should be equal to I dot product, very good. Quantity should be equal to I dot quantity. In case you don't still understand, what we are doing over here is creating a new model from the cart. It only makes sense that we make sure that we save whatever that was in the order to a new model, because at the end of the day, when a user has placed their order, we will delete the cart, right? And if you delete the cart without actually saving what was in the cart, how will the vendor or you as admin know that, okay, this user ordered a MacBook Pro, or yeah, this user ordered an iPhone 13? You won't know. That is because you did not save each of those orders to their own models or objects, but rather you just deleted the carts without even grabbing the informations that are in the carts and saving it somewhere safe. Is that actually a right word? Saving it somewhere safe. Yeah, let's work with that. So when you have added this, what we are doing now is creating a new order item from the carts. Remember that these items here that we are looping through is this one, which links back to the carts. Okay, so quantity should be I dot quantity. Color should be equal to color. Oops, that should be I dot color, my bad. And size should be equal to I dot size, and price should be equal to I dot price, and sub underscore total should be equal to I dot sub total. Okay, and shipping should be equal to I dot shipping, very good. And also tax should be equal to, now this is where calling that function is going to come in very handy, because we don't need to go ahead and start rewriting the function to do this anymore. All you just need to say is call the tax calculation and pass in the address.country, as simple as that. So can you see that this have saved us a whole lot of time and stress? So we don't even need to start rewriting the logic anymore. All right, so when you have done this, now add the total. Total should be I dot total, And what else do we have? I believe we have initial total, if I'm not mistaken. That should be I dot initial. No, that should still be I dot total. Okay, because we don't have any initial total field in the cart. So vendor should be equal to I dot product dot vendor. Very good. That's it. We are done. So I think we just have one more thing to do. After indenting that, go ahead and add the particular vendor that owns this item to the order. Remember that this is a multi-vendor e-commerce, right? So an order will have a list of vendors that are associated with that particular order. So let's say a user bought 4 items from 3 different vendors. Now this order will be shared among 3 different vendors. So those vendors need a way to know that, okay, I am associated or linked to this order. And based on the fact that the other items does not specifically have their own addresses, the best thing to do is to go ahead and add vendors to the main order object, which is this one here, so that the vendors themselves can grab addresses. Okay, and maybe in the future, let's say you also want to show them tax or shipping, you could do that. So that is why we then need to go ahead and say order dot, oops, I didn't spell that correctly. That should be order dot vendors dot add I dot products dot vendor. And now you might be like, Destiny, what is going on? Why are you doing it this way? Why don't you just do it in here? Now that is basically because the vendors field over here is a many to many field. It's not a foreign key, it's not a char field, it's not a one-to-one field, it's a many to many key, which means for you to add items to this, you probably would want to be in somewhere like a loop like this, where we add one instance at a time to the many to many field. Okay, we add the first one, we save, we add the second one, we save, we add the third one, we save, and like that. So whenever you are adding items to a many to many field, you don't need to say something like order.save. This already happens automatically. Okay, so there is no need for this. It will make your code to be redundant. All right, that is it. So when we are done, what I just want you to do is return to this starting of the create order, and you basically just want to return this user to the checkout page. So return redirect to the checkout. Very good. For now we don't have the checkout, but yeah, you get a point. So store checkout, and then over here I'm gonna say order dot order underscore ID. Very good. So that is, I'm doing this because for you to be able to access the checkout page, it only makes sense that there is an order that you're about to pay for or to check out on. So what we are saying is you cannot access the checkout page without having the ID of an order appended to that particular checkout. Okay, I hope all this makes sense. I just hope so. So when we have done this, in order to prevent some issues or errors, let's go ahead and create the checkout page right away. So I'll say define checkout, and it doesn't really need to take anything much, just request ID. And also based on the fact that we have order ID passed in here, that hints that we might also need order, not might, we will compulsorily need it. And go ahead and return the templates. So a template, just like, hold on, this one here. So you go ahead, you return those templates, make sure that the name is called cart. We don't have any context for now, but you could just create an empty context and just let it do a thing over there. And go ahead, create the checkout HTML. Okay, so in the templates, I will create, in the template store, I will create a new file called checkout HTML, and over here I will create an h1 and say welcome to checkout. Very good. So when you have done this, that is everything that I want you to do. Now go ahead, open up your URLs py for the store, open up URLs py, and just down here go ahead and pass in the create order. do the same thing here, do the same thing there. Very good. And you must not forget the checkouts, because that is also very compulsory for this feature to work without showing an error. So pass that there also, pass that here also. Perfect. So guys, when you have done this, that is basically everything that we want to do. Now the only thing that's left for us is to go ahead and basically just open up the parts and wrap some things up. So I'm gonna show you. We need to look for the best place to do this. All right, do you see this cart item here? One thing that I can already see that we could do is wrap up this whole row in a form, and then take this form here, get down here and paste, pasty, then indent, and there you go. That's what we have. Now remember that whenever you're working with a post method in Django, you need a way to return a CSRF token. So we will return a CSRF token here. And also remember that based on the fact that the create order function wasn't directly written in the cat function, rather it was written in an external function called create order, we need to go ahead and call that order's URL in here in the action. So action is basically something that runs whenever your form submits. Action is like, okay, whenever this form submits, what do you want me to do? Where do you want me to go? Where is your logic placed? I will go over there and run your logic. That is basically what action does. So our logic is placed in the store creates underscore order. Now the action of this form immediately knows what to do, but it would be kind of lost because it wouldn't know if it should use a get method or a post method. But then it would be like, you know what, I'm going to use a get method, but we don't want it to use a get method for this particular form. Rather, we want it to use a post method. Does that ring any bell? Yeah, we need to go ahead and add in a post method. Just like that, we are done. So scroll down to the address again, and I just want to glance through just to make sure that everything is looking good over here. Yeah, I think everything looks good. So scroll back to the checkout, proceed to checkout button, and I want you to remove this href, rather change it to a button that is a type of submit. There you go. All right, so when you have done this, I think that is everything that we need. Let me make sure that my server is running as expected. Yes, I think it is. Go ahead, open this up, refresh your page, and let's see. Okay, so that's all loaded. If you don't select an address and hit proceed to checkout, you should get, see, please select an address to continue. Very good. But I don't really like the way that is showing up. I think we might have an issue with the alerts in the base. So please open up the base and look for message. There you go, this is it. So let's go through this. For message in messages, then okay, I'm checking if message, but if you don't want to check this, you can totally remove that. It's still gonna work fine. Indent this, and over here we say alerts should be alert message.tags. Please don't miss that, message.tags, and this one here should just be message. Very good. Okay, so I think that's everything that we want. So let's get back here and reload this page. If you try checking out again, see, this now makes sense. It says please select an address to continue. So I will also open up my admin just to make sure that it creates an order for us in the here and here. Okay, so as soon as I click on that button, okay, yeah, remember that we created an address field in the order without actually running make migrations and migrates, and that is something that I preach that you don't forget, but I do forget it. My bad. Let's go ahead and run that. Python manage.py make migrations, and also Python manage.py migrate. So this is a way I usually like doing this. When the make migration is running, I just go ahead and type out the migrate also while it's still running, so that it's automatically and magically appears when it's done running. So yeah, with that thing, we should have everything set up ready for testing. There you go. So an order should be created here, and an item should also be created here. Very good. So let's go ahead, click on this, and it says select an address to continue. Makes sense. Please select an address, click on this again, and I think it's actually working, but there might be a problem. So let's see, did it actually create anything for us? Of course it did. See that? So let's see. Yeah, it added the vendor. You can see it added the customer, it's added the subtotal, the shipping, the tax, the service fee, the total, the payment status is processing, payment method is none. We don't have anything there yet. Initial total is 0. That is not working as I expected, but don't worry, we'll fix that later. Saved is 0. Now, in case you don't know why I added initial total, remember that we'll be working on with coupon in the next one. So as soon as a user wants to apply a new coupon and we override the old total to give them a new total, how do you know what the original total of this order was before the coupon got applied? You will not know if you do not save it in the database. So that is why we are saving that in a field called saved. Okay, so we save the discount that we give them in a field called saved, save the original total in a field called initial total. Very good. And over here, let me see, tax showing 0.00. Why is that? Service fee is working, tax isn't working. Did it work? I don't think so. It did not work. So let's see what okay, before we actually fix tax and initial total, we're getting an error here, right? All right, let's get back here and see what is going on. So reverse for checkout with argument this not found. I think I know what's happening. Come over to the URLs py, and just over here, make sure to add the order ID here. Very good. Then allow your server to reload, and when it's done reloading, let's see what's wrong with the initials. So over here, we are obviously not adding anything for the initial. Okay, I want you to also add that. And over here, you can see for the order total, after even explaining everything for you guys, I still forgot to do it. So it should be plus equals order service. Okay, my bad, I forgot that. And order dot initial order should be equal to order dot total. Very good. Please do not forget that one. Tax calculation, let me see, it's returning tax rates, right? Everything here looks good. Tax rate is 0. Oh yeah, I know what's happening. So after fixing up all this, hop over to the admin and let's check out the address again. So the address for the, seems like I haven't, oh, there you go. So this is the address, and we need to make sure that country for here is one of the countries listed in our countries.py. So I'm going to choose Nigeria for now. We have Nigeria, India, Algeria, I think. So let's try this out one more time. Reload this page and make sure that you're selecting an address. Hit proceed to checkout, and there you go. It's now coming in here. But you're saying that checkout got an unexpected keyword argument order. Okay, don't worry, we'll fix that. But before that, let's check out what's going on with our orders over here. All right, now you can see that we have initial total being saved. Tax is being calculated. Very good. Everything is working over here. But this one is checkout got an unexpected keyword argument order. Let me see what's going on. So in the URLs, this should be order ID. That's the problem. Okay. And after you change that to order ID and reload this page, there you go. Welcome to checkout. So let's go ahead and set up the checkout page real quick. in the checkout HTML here, you can see it's still blank. What I want you to do is come over to the 0 templates, and I want you to come over to the checkout HTML, and then you can copy everything that we have over here. Let me minimize this too, and then you know what, I'm just going to copy everything here, and in the checkout HTML I will paste it down here. Okay, so the PayPal code, the Stripe code, don't mind any of this for now. I'll show you guys how all those ones work later. Okay, so don't bother yourself with that for now. So what I want you to do is minimize this, minimize the two scripts, and then you can remove this header. I don't really want that anymore. And what I want to do now is in the cart HTML, I want to take this here and also this, and then I'm going to copy that, get back to the checkout HTML, then I'm going to paste it here and here, just like that. That is what I want. So after you have done this, reload your checkout page and let's see what we have. There you go. Perfect. So this is everything that we have for now. Let's go ahead and start changing this up so that you guys can actually see some things show up right here. So the very first thing I will do will be to, I think right now I want to close up all the tabs so that I have a clean space to work with. And I'm going to open up the view for the store and make sure to fetch the order and pass it to the template by saying order should be equal to store models dot order dot objects dot filter by order should be equal to, rather that should be order ID should be equal to order ID. Very good. So when you have done this, then you could go ahead and take order and just put it down here and also down here, and that should be in the template now. So to confirm for the orders, please get back here and make sure that you have this listed in your order model. Okay, and after you have done that, now go ahead, open up your checkout again, and you can start changing up a couple of things down here. So let's start off with this one, which is the loop for this order. So you can see this div here that shows shadow rounded MB3. Collapse this, and I want you to write a for loop around this. Say for, you could just say for item in order dot order underscore items dot all. Let me confirm if what I called it was order underscore items. So this order here, this order keyword here is this one here, but whenever there is a new model, we have related items to it, which is returned in this method called order items. So make sure that what you did over here is for item in order items dot all, and also make sure that you're wrapping this whole div with the end for. Okay, so with all this now, if you loop through, you should still see one item. Okay, we're supposed to still see one item, which means something is going on that shouldn't actually be going on. The very first thing I want to check is this. In the view, make sure that at order, oh my bad, this is returning a filter instead of a get. So please go ahead and get instead of filter. Okay, because we are trying to fetch one particular order for a checkout, so there is no need to grab all the items that are in our database. Rather, we just want to grab one item, so that's why we should use get. Okay, so yeah, we should see one item here. I knew that was supposed to be. So when you have done this, that is everything. What we just need to do now is start looping through in the checkout HTML over here, starting with the image. So instead of this dummy image URL, just say item.products.image.url. Okay, and instead of this iPhone 13 Pro Max, say item.products.name. Very good. Instead of this dummy price, say item.price. Good. Instead of this, say item.product. Oops, that should be product.vendor.profile.full_name. That's a lot of chaining. And instead of this 1099, I want you to say item dot price. For quantity, I want you to say item dot qty. You can notice that I use single quotes over here. Please don't mind that. That is because I got very used to React lately, and rendering with React actually has to work with single quotes. Okay, so for this one, it should be price, so it should be item dot price. Okay, and yeah, I think that is it. And if a user wants to update their carts, take them back to the carts page. Very good. So yeah, I think that is everything that we have. Now for the address, it's a little bit easier than I think something is up. So I'm gonna change this form now. Okay guys, so what I had to do was just pause the video real quick, hop over to the checkout HTML and update it. Right, that's just what I did. So now I'm gonna take this p3 div, and back in my checkout HTML, replace it with this p3 div. So minimize this and replace it with this one. Very good. So let's see how this looks. Okay, this is exactly what I wanted, and this is how I wanted it to be. So then you could go ahead and change up the informations. And my bad, I think we must have had an issue here. Okay, this is what I'm looking for. So the checkout, I went back to the cart by clicking on this. Okay, by clicking on this, I think. So now let's change up all those placeholder informations. Now instead of this dummy full name here, you could say order dot address dot full underscore name, and this is what we will do throughout this changing of addresses or changing of the address data. So you could replace all of them with order dot address dot full underscore name. Then you could start changing up their informations, like email should be email, mobile should be mobile, address should be address, city should be city, state should be state, and country should be country. Very good. And when you have done that, you can then go ahead and pass in a URL that returns back to the cart. Okay, so when you have done that one, that is everything that you want to do. So the last thing on my list is just to change up the order details itself. So the order summary, instead of this subtotal here, you could just say order dot sub underscore total, and instead of this shipping here, you could say order dot shipping. Same goes for tax, order dot tax. Same goes for service fee. Okay, I don't actually have any service fee field, so you could duplicate one of these ones here and use it for service fee. So service fee should be order dot service fee. Now it's up to you if you want to put tax before service fee or service fee before tax. Go ahead and play around with that. Okay, and now total should be order dot total. So there is just one more that we need to put, and that is pretty much checking for. Let me duplicate one of this. Okay, then I only want to show this one if order dot saved exists. That means a coupon was actually or has been applied. That is only when I want to display this one. So if there is a coupon, which also stands for if order dot saved, then what do we want to do? Instead of showing this here, you could show order dot saved, and instead of showing this tax keyword, you could show maybe discount. Yeah, I think discount is the right word to use. And just down here, run a for loop and say for coupon in order dot coupons dot all, and over here you need to, in a small tag, put the coupon dot code. Coupon dot code. Let me change up this small text thinking of that. Let's make it a text success with an font weight of bold. And I also want to show applied. So that's the coupon that has been currently applied. All right. Let's test this out. Reload your page, and there you go. All this information are coming in. This too looks very good, apart from this one. So I think it's a little bit broken over here. So fix that, and yeah, should be good. There you go. So everything looks okay here. The only thing that's not working now is the coupon, which is what we'll work on in the next video. That is basically it for this video, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed the video and learned something new. If there is something that you don't understand, if there is something that's still confusing for you, let me know in the comment section below, and I'll be more than happy to help you out. If for any reason I don't see your comments, you could also shoot a mail to desphixs@gmail.com, and I will be happy to help you out. Also, check out some of the links in the description below. One of them there should be useful, and also the courses there should help you become a better Django developer. And also, I want you guys to check out Desphixs.io. I'm releasing an application that should help us code better with a lot of features ranging from video courses to coding challenges to practice Q&A and exams to tutorial step-by-steps with learning parts and many more features. So in the upcoming weeks or maybe a month or so, the application will be live, and I want you to be the first to know. You can drop your email at desphixs.io. Let me show you quickly. So hop over to desphixs.io, just punch in your email and hit save, and as soon as we go live, we will send an email to you. Then you can be able to check out the application, test it, and give us your feedback. Then, you know, let's know what you think and things that you might want us to add or remove. Okay, so yeah, that's gonna be it. Hopefully you enjoyed the video and learned something new. I hope to see you in the next one, where we'll get started working with coupon. And until then, mad love, peace out.